blow-through floor up there allows high winds to infiltrate that cavity. That actually reduces vibration on the building. The blow-through floor is not just a first of its kind here in Chicago, but it was determined to be needed to stabilize the building after the fact. Things like that don't happen. So why did it? Well, when they built the foundation for the St. Regis, they discovered it was considerably smaller than what Jeannie Gang's plans had called for. That resulted in the real-time slenderizing of her tower, which meant they had to rerun the wind tests. In doing so, they found out the building would vibrate too much, so they removed the 83rd and 84th floor, put in the blow-through floor, no condos for you on those floors. Additionally, the building has on top of it what's known as a tuned mass damper. There's tens of thousands of gallons of water on top of the building in a big concrete tank. When the building starts to vibrate, the water sloshes about above. That creates the inertia to stunt the building back to a standstill. And y'all know me, I'm crazy. I look forward to meeting the couples that bought the condos above the blow-through floor and beneath the tuned mass damper to talk with them about how wind and water are working in tandem to stabilize their lives and how that is actually quite unsettling. Boutique shopping, hotel, and luxurious condominiums. The condos in there are so luxurious, they're redefining what luxury means. To which the homies and I all said, whatever that means. Bruh. Beautiful though. Now, that one I don't know. You stumped me, miss. Fair enough. We can find out. Now straight ahead of us, folks, you'll see the Donald Trump International Hotel and Tower, a massive concrete building covered in articulated glass and steel, built in 2009, designed by a Chicagoan named Adrian Smith. Folks, each one of the setbacks on the building, the 3 big steps it has, those are set at the heights of neighboring buildings. It's a reference to Chicago's architecture. Trump Tower references the Wrigley Building, London Guarantee, an Accident Building, and the IBM Building. You'll get information on those buildings and in that order. I'm not going to go there now. So Trump Tower is 92 stories in height. It's 1,389 feet tall. The guy who designed the Trump Tower, Adrian Smith, he's the same guy who designed the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. The tallest building on the planet since 2011. That thing stands 2,717 feet tall, 2717. The tallest building in Chicago, the 23rd tallest building in the world, the Sears Tower, 1451. So it's quite insane what's happened to tall buildings around the world, and I watch year in, year out, much to my chagrin, as the Sears just keeps dropping down that number, that line, right? The way you describe the Sears Tower, folks, it is the 4th tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah, okay, that's how we do. And you gotta love the fact that we are stuck in traffic in downtown Chicago on the Chicago River. I love that about that, and that's okay because you'll get something I can't always get to. Folks, out there to the right-hand side, you'll see a limestone tower. It's an Art Deco building from the 1920s. Look at the Moorish-inspired dome on top. That was financed by the Shriners. It used to be a high-end athletic club called the Medina Athletic Club. That building is incredible. Today it's a hotel called the Hotel Intercontinental. Anybody staying at the Hotel Intercontinental, have you been to the pool? Oh my goodness, you folks make sure you go to the pool. It is the equivalency of like a Greco-Roman style bathhouse. The appearance is like that, not like what's going on in there. A lot of historians on the boat today. If you do want to go see the Tribune Tower later that we talked about with the with the French Gothic Revivalist cornice, when you walk around the Tribune Tower right over here at Pioneer Plaza, you'll see pieces of stone embedded in the building from all over the planet. They're labeled, they're legit, stone like from the Great Wall of China, pyramids at Giza, Parthenon in Athens, Greece, etc. Yeah, come see the Tribune, walk around it. And then just here to the forward, take photographs as we come by. There it is, friends, the Wrigley Building. Yes, of Wrigley's Chewing Gum, Wrigley Field. We owe it all to William Wrigley Jr. This used to be the corporate headquarters for that company. A South Tower and a North Tower built 1921 and 1924, done in a Spanish revivalist style. Folks, there's 250,000 white glazed terracotta tiles on the facade of the Wrigley. Each tile has a number on the back of it. They are in a database. They are cleaned and or replaced over time. There's 6 different shades of white glazed terracotta on the Wrigley. They get brighter as you go up. Take this picture here of the Wrigley. You can only get this image if you're on a boat in Chicago. Look at that. Incredible. Designed by Graham Anderson, Probst & White. Look at the decor at the base lines there. Look at the decor at the cornice lines. And the clock tower here on the Wrigley, that was inspired by Giralda's bell tower in Seville, Spain. Yeah, make sure you walk by the Wrigley later. Walk in between the 2 buildings that comprise the structure. And then the second building Trump Tower references after the Wrigley. We move now to our left. Folks, I love this one, the London Guarantee and Accident Building. Look at the base lines, the cornice lines. Look at the griffins as a stone relief, lower right and left hand side. You got Corinthian style Roman columns there at the base and cornice. One of my favorite things, look at the Grecian urns up there on the edges, hidden in plain sight. And the Chicago School of Architecture, I can showcase to you quickly. See how again the building has the base lines and the cornice lines? It's like a story, beginning, middle, end. The early skyscrapers, 1880s all the way to the 1930s, they had that base, shaft, and cornice. That's the Chicago School. If you want to see more elements of the Chicago School, look out to our left-hand side. Beyond the obelisks at Wabash, you can see the decoration there at the base of the building. Look at the decor there at the cornice. That Chicago School is embedded in the Jewelers Building. The Jewelers Building, though, from 1926 here, that building was actually modeled after a 15th century Italian monastery. So you can have these various European influences, you can have the different facades, but when you see the base, the shaft, the cornice, that tripartite configuration, that's the Chicago School. You'll want to walk by the Jewelers Building later. It's incredible. And then I squeezed that one in just for fun to show you more Chicago School stuff. The third building Trump Tower references with its setbacks is this one here to our right. That's actually a modern building from 1971 designed by Mies van der Rohe. The father of modern architecture built that. The IBM is special. Here's why. That's the youngest building in Chicago to be declared a historical landmark. That was Mies van der Rohe's last commercial building he built in America before he passed away. And of the dozens of buildings he built in Chicago, that's his only one that is right smack dab on the Chicago River. Now, Mies van der Rohe taught here in Chicago at what is now IIT. One of Mies van der Rohe's students rejected modernism. His name was Bertrand Goldberg. How do you know Goldberg rejected the dark black box? Well, he built these. Quite literally the antithesis of what the professor was talking about. Goldberg believed in circles. He loved nature. This is Marina City Towers, aka the corncob buildings. We call them the flower towers, the Chicago tree houses, built in the 60s, entirely made of concrete. They have a valet that parks your car. They do not trust you to do that. These are said to be some of the world's most photographed buildings. They're in all the movies. Friends of mine who live there, everyone who lives there complains about how difficult it is to decorate their petal-shaped unit. Yes, indeed. To which I say, you know what, Tim? I don't want to hear it. You live in the corncob buildings, dude. Play it cool. Play it cool, Tim. Nah. He's in Downers Grove. Folks, I love this tower. Left-hand side, you'll fall in love with 77 West Wacker Drive. Built in the 90s. See how it looks like you're looking just right through a building? Like maybe all that's over there is a big stone scaffolding. They cased the glass tower in classical stone. The building was inspired by Giotto's bell tower in Florence, Italy. The building was modeled after a single Greco-Roman column. Folks, go to the very tippy top of 77 West Wacker. That is a tip of the hat to the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. I love 77 West Wacker, the old R.R. Donnelly building. It was designed by James De Stefano and a Spanish architect, a man named Ricardo Bofill. I often tell my guests, don't sleep on the brick buildings. Here's a prairie-style warehouse on the right by George Nimmons. You saw one he built in 1909 on the North Branch. Here on the main branch, the Reed Murdoch Center, it dates back to 1914. And here's the detail everyone misses. Follow the brick columns to the top, find your favorite column, follow it up there. See the terracotta tiles on top of the columns? They look like grasses, grains, wheats, little plants. Yeah, you would have seen similar imagery just like that, but as a stained glass window on, say, like a Frank Lloyd Wright home, also prairie style. Go to River Roast or go to the kitchen, go check out the Reed Murdoch Center, a nice little piece of our history when shipping and meat packing and rail yards all ruled supreme. Today, though, we know it's all about accessibility. Here's one that's from 2009. Here on the right, you'll see 300 North LaSalle. It's a gorgeous tower. It features articulated glass and steel, has a bit more texture on it, because again, it's from 2009. This was super futuristic and high-tech back in the day, still very attractive, but when Pickard Shilton built this, I called it the flash drive building. It looks like a massive thumb drive. It's indicative of that era and that technology. In '09, your photos, documents, TPS reports, they were in a thumb drive. And I can make 300 North LaSalle look very dated. I can make the flash drive building seem old when I show you the new building Pickard Shilton just built, which is already 5 years old. So go from '09, 300 North LaSalle. Pickard Shilton's new tower is that one straight ahead of us. We call it the Hot Pocket building. It's actually known as River Point. Isn't it very attractive? The clouds, the sky, the buildings, the river, the boats. The curved linear facade of the building was designed to maximize the view. River Point sits right there at Wolf Point, here on the river. It's got a beautiful parabolic arch at the base. The parabolic arch at the base is a gutter. It gathers rainwater, and then that water is later used to sprinkle the grass, trees, plants, and flowers that you legally have to have in the park that they built. And you'll now note the park is built over the railroad. How can I tell the park's built over the railroad, David? You'll see circular vents along the Riverwalk straight ahead of you there. That allows for the emissions from the trains that run between us and the building right there along the river. And the work of art that you see there right at the base of River Point, that was done by Spanish architect Santiago Caltron. And then feast your eyes on this. Oh my goodness, folks, Wolf Point East. It's just 2 years old. It's got the feature that I've come to call shadow lines, where the creases, seams, and folds draw your eye vertically. Subtle detail for you. See the stone columns at the base of the building? See how the stone columns match the stone in the Riverwalk? It's a seemingly innocuous detail that makes this massive new tower land very delicately in the Riverwalk. And you'll see people up there on the 3rd floor sunning themselves. That is a 3rd floor indoor-outdoor pool deck. Bro, if my life circumstances shift dramatically, I'm moving in. No, not yet. My brother goes, you got any friends there? And I go, no, not yet. Like we're on the same wavelength. Like I'm trying, working on it. They have studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms there at Wolf Point East. Yeah, I've been eyeballing a broom closet on the lower level. Feast your eyes though on River Point, 150 North Riverside Plaza. Folks, there's no name for this new style of architecture. My colleagues who are lazy call it next gen. I don't know who she is. They also call this new stuff futurism. I have come to call the new style cloudism. We are experiencing cloudism because that's what you see reflected off these new mirrored buildings. Moreover, that's where all your documents are today. I'm just making stuff up, having fun. Thank you. Looks nice though. Friends, so you know, 150 North Riverside Plaza here, it also has a tuned mass damper on top. Talked about that at the St. Regis. There's 600,000 gallons of water on top of this building spread across 12 concrete tanks. The water sloshing about helps the building stay stable. Additionally, the V-shaped element of this building, the I-beams that were forged for the V-shaped part of this structure, which holds all the weight, they are said to be some of the strongest I-beams ever made. They're made of what's called G5 steel. G5 steel is not just my new nickname. It happens to be some of the strongest steel manufactured on the planet. They make it in Luxembourg. Folks, the I-beams they made that are inside this building holding the weight, they weigh 1,000 pounds per foot. Yeah. Intense engineering, incredible building, unique property. Make sure you wander through here later at 150 North Riverside Plaza. And the firm who built it again, Getch Partners, I am pleased to announce, that was also done by Getch Partners. They just finished this last year. You will see all the things we talk about on this tour, the Riverwalk with the accessibility, cafe, restaurant. You'll see V-shaped supports that hold the building up over its own Riverwalk, right? The Riverwalk is built into the footprint of the building. The V-shaped supports here at 110 North Wacker Drive, they may remind you of the V-shaped supports you just saw on their other building. That is them referencing themselves, which is awesome. It's got a little pocket park. It's got the shadow lines. And when I talk about cloudism, this is what it's all about. Now, as you look at the building, convince yourself that it's invisible, right? It's reflecting the sky and clouds so well. When these new buildings appear to be invisible, I have come to call that predatorism. Right, though? Best idea I ever had. We forgive those who call it the Bank of America building, folks. That is 110 North Wacker Drive, right? We saw the Sphinx-like appearance earlier on this Art Deco building on the right by Halliburtt and Root. Here to our left, note the exact same year, 1929, is a big chair. Look at this throne-shaped building by Graham Anderson Probst and White. That is not the world's biggest typo. That is a throwback to the Latin alphabet. But above the lettering, what everyone misses is a balconette. See that balconette halfway up? See the comedy and tragedy theater masks? The decoration on the outside of a building can be an indicator of what's going on inside the structure. And then also notice where your bottom would go if you sat down in this chair. Along the edge of the seat, there are Native American chiefs. Help your neighbors see this. Their mouths are agape and they're wearing headdresses. Yeah? Why are their mouths wide open? Folks, those natives, they're singing opera. Yeah, which is historically inaccurate, but I do like that. I do like that. So since on the tour we have the luxury of kind of hopping back and forth through time, exploring all these different styles, but you got to remember how long it takes things to truly shift and change. Case in point, I know we've talked a lot about the Miesian black boxes. You've seen modernism. If they're building these simplistic office buildings in the 1950s and 1960s, again, both these done by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, well then what happened in the 70s was people went crazy. Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill in the 70s built a big white box. We do chuckle at Gateway Center 3 because, again, office space was still the emphasis. It really doesn't have a whole lot going on, but I do want you all to convince yourself that as you move from the 50s and 60s into the 70s, that building out there would have been deemed, you know, futuristic, right? Next generation. It would have been like the new fun building to work in. And as you look at it, you'll note, okay, it kind of has a masonry exterior that's wildly different than just glass and steel. The building is full of colors, right? It's got two of them. That's something anyway. That style came to be known as the international style, right? Again, like in theory, you could have built that building anywhere in the world and it's not too offensive. Most cultures could accept it. It's straightforward building principles. It's giving you the office space everyone wanted, but we know best today, right? It wasn't until the 1980s when they abandoned the box. They're doing different things, contextualism, they're using color and material. Folks, Gateway Center 4, you'll see out there to the distance, very dramatic example of contextualism, that bend in the building following the river. You'll see on Gateway Center 4 also green reflective convex glass that gives the building a kaleidoscope effect. Just one decade previous, buildings would have turned their back on the river. They would have been simplistic boxes. Look out there at that simplistic modern tower from the 70s. It has no accessibility. In fact, that large central panel you see along the building, behind that are elevator banks and mechanicals. They put like the technical stuff on the river's edge, which today you wouldn't do. You'd have windows and balconies and a restaurant, what have you. In fact, 6 years ago, this building got a new owner, and they knew I didn't talk about the building. So along that central panel, they painted a massive mural. And as you gaze upon it, it will confuse you at first glance until I say to you, see the dot in the middle? You are here. It's a map of the city, emphasis on the old, soggy, ancient onion swamp that is now the 3 branches of the Chicago River. You can see Wolf Point where all the branches collide. You can even see on this map the grid system that is downtown Chicago, the roadways from the Daniel Burnham Plan of 1909. Now technically that dot in the middle there, that's that building, right, where it sits in the city on the river. And I love that about that. That means that in an effort to draw more attention to their building, you know, to really put it on the map. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, this guy, dude. I just let you all extrapolate the rest of that terrible joke with your deductive reasoning skills. We all just wrote bad comedy in real time together. And here it comes, the thing you came to see, the moment you've all been waiting for. Built throughout the 20s and 30s from the Daniel Burnham Plan of 1909. Here it is, the former main Chicago post office. Think of all the parcels shipped out of this building for all those years. It's got 18 production floors. The building was left abandoned back in 1996. It racked up 21 building code violations. The windows were blown out. The stone was crumbling. They used the building in the Batman movie, The Dark Knight. There was a Transformer fight out here in one of the Transformers movies. I think it was Transformers 14, but I don't remember. Now, Burnham envisioned a roadway going through a public building. They built the building in the 1920s with the hole in the middle, and then they waited. They would not build the Ida B. Wells Drive here or Congress Parkway, which becomes the Eisenhower or 290. They would not build that until 1954. People are now working in that building again. It was purchased in 2016 by a firm out of New York City named 601 West Companies. They do amazing work. 601 West Companies is now turning the building here into Class A offices. People are already back in there working. Artist renditions on the internet machine will show you what the new Riverwalk project will look like right here. They've not yet begun to do the Riverwalk, as this has been the staging area for the ongoing renovation. But we are excited here in Chicago to watch the old post office get brought back anew. To quote the Tribune, it's exciting to watch an otherwise forgotten quadrant of the South Loop get reutilized. Thank you, Tribune Company. We talked about the neighborhoods being built on the North Branch. We do look to the future as well here on the South Branch. Just to our left, you'll see a massive new neighborhood being built. Welcome, welcome to the South Bank. The South Bank has some new towers. You've got the Alta Grand Central. It's got some cloudism going on, right? That cloudism looks good right now. The Alta Grand Central throws epic pool parties. They have studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. Also, the Cooper. The Cooper offers studio 1, 2, 3 bedrooms there. But in addition to that, you can rent at the Cooper 2-story townhomes. See on the lower level past the trees, those 2-story townhomes are for rent. They're about $7 to $9 grand a month. Yeah, so live here at the Cooper, in the South Branch, in the South Loop, at the South Bank. There is a theme down here. Unbeknownst to many people, the stone that you see here, that landscaping, all that limestone, Folks, that's repurposed and reshaped stone. That's the remnants of the foundations of the buildings that used to be here, where they dug all them up to do soil sampling and begin to build this new neighborhood. They had agricultural buildings down here, freight terminals, things like that. When they ripped all that up, they repurposed the stone, put it right back in the landscaping. That's all part of going green. For the last 15 years, developers have striven to achieve what's called LEED certification, LEED, Leadership in Environmental and Energy Design. Things like that help. Using river water for the AC unit, gathering rainwater in gutters can be things like that as well. And a lot of developments now call for green spaces to be built on top. The green spaces actually can mitigate rain runoff, and that reduces pollution. Hooray. Hooray. Pollution bad. They are apartments here. You're not getting in here for less than $1,600. You're lucky. Welcome to River City. River City may look familiar to you. Not because we start here. That's too easy. River City was built in the 1980s by Bertrand Goldberg. He's the guy who in the 1960s, you'll remember, built the Corncob buildings or the Marina City Towers. Now, River City here is an S-shaped building of poured reinforced concrete, over 400 units, a K-8 school on the property, and most importantly, there are 70 boat slips. 70. Get yours today. That marina is unique in that it has bubblers that disallows the water to freeze in the winter. You can leave your boat in there all year long. I know guys who live on their boats all year long down there. Yeah, do you know why they do that? Because they figured out life. You like your mortgage? You like your rental payments? No, you don't. You like your neighbors? Man, they are the worst. I know. Get rid of all that and get a boat. Take it from me, y'all. I have a boat. Yeah, it's an inflatable kayak. It's in my trunk right now. It's a sea, yeah, I'm balling. My inflatable Sea Eagle 330. Yeah, thank you. In the coming years, they'll even build a new neighborhood here to our left. They're going to squeeze in this new neighborhood called the South Line. Yeah. Just between us and the Roosevelt Collection there. They live elsewhere now. Yeah, there was 41 people living down here before they began to clear out and build these new neighborhoods here. They had generators, right? They had foods, they were hanging out. Now, as impressive as the South Bank is, and as neat as this new little neighborhood here will be one day, folks, there is a massive plot of land down here, over 60 some odd acres of land that will become a new neighborhood over the next 15 years. They'll invest about $15 billion to build this new neighborhood called the 78. They call it the 78 because this will become the 78th community area in Chicago. Even within our current 77 community areas, there are even more neighborhoods. Chicago is indeed a city of neighborhoods. That's what gives this big city a small town feel. And fortunate for us, a lot of the neighborhoods are the remnants of the different cultural niches carved out by the various groups who built the country, built the city. You can peek off here and see where they'll build the 78. All the buildings were designed by Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. As many as 12 buildings will be built down here. You'll have high-rises, mid-rises, townhomes. There's 30% of all this land will be parks and gardens. We'll have a river walk with cafes and restaurants and boats coming and going. All the things that we love are coming down here at the 78. And just like that, friends, let me please take my third and final break. I'll be off the mic for a few minutes. Good time to take care of your bar needs and your washroom needs. Take care of all that now so we can all reconvene up here. Once we do come about down here, I'm back on the microphone. I'll provide you all with some more information, connect some dots, and once we head back towards the dock there, I'll leave you all with an overly dramatic conclusion. All right, so yes, thanks for listening. And a brief announcement, we found a credit card for a gentleman named Scott. The last name, I think, is Bybee, B-Y-B-B-B-E-B-O-B-B-B. Yeah. If you don't come claim your card, it'll go bye-bye. Here he is. 1 second, Scott.
Dave, I didn't know you got a twin brother.
permitting this.
I get to be in it.
Oh yeah.
I seen it. I was walking past it. And I was like,
I got this going.
Yeah,
too.
that's up. Time lapse.
It's just recording normal right now, but I can like adjust it. Yeah. I'm just gonna keep it going until it dies.
Let it go, baby. Mr. Spielberg.
oh wait, it's your brother? No, I can't permit it now.
Yeah.
Flash.
Alrighty, so to the gentleman's inquiry, the bridge is downtown. South Branch and Main Branch, they still do swing those bridges open. Only on Wednesdays and Saturdays do they open our bridges, beginning and end of boat season. Wednesday or Saturday, when you're here in the fall, it's depressing, of course, to watch the sailboats come off the lake, but you can watch as they go bridge by bridge, a massive flotilla of sailboats coming off the lake. Now this bridge, they open all the time. All you gotta do is be in a big boat, icebreaker, barge, a big shot in their yacht. You radio in on channel 13 or 16, something like, leaving South Loop, please open up the Canal Street Bridge. And then people in an office a mile away who now remotely operate this vertical lift bridge will open it up for you. And what you think happens? Yeah, the entire bridge climbs up these stationary towers. We call it the Canal Street Bridge. It is an old Pennsylvania Railroad line. My dad's dad, Grandpa Richard, he worked for the Pennsylvania Railroad for 39 years here in Chicago. Sometimes we see trains go across it in real time on a tour. In 13 years of boat tours, I've only seen the bridge go up 5 times in real time during a tour. Twice for barges pushing material up to Goose Island, and then 3 times we saw big shots in their yachts going under it. I've never seen an icebreaker go under this thing because I am not around in the winter. We tend to leave the Midwest in the winter, don't we? Yeah. Head for warmer climates. Pretty impressive though, huh? And it's peaceful, quiet down here. We again cover more of the river. Most boat companies don't come this far south. They won't bring you all the way up to the locked doors as we do, and we also bring you all the way up to Goose Island. If you enjoy the journey, tell your friends and family about us, and again, leave that review on the internet machine. Use my name by name. I am still David. David changed my life. That fateful Saturday. Was it Saturday, honey? It was Saturday. Oh, it's that's hilarious. That's hilarious. I worked all day yesterday, did 5 tours, then had the night job, then I'm up again this morning doing 4 more today. I don't know what day it is, I don't know where I am. But Chicago school, you guys should go. That's awesome.
It's Sunday. The Sabbath.
Alright. I hope you're struck by the beauty, the peace and calm of this prairie-inspired park. Welcome, welcome to Ping Tom Park. Ping Tom was an influential business leader and real estate guy here in Chicago's Chinatown. He brought investment to his community, he brought housing into the town. They named the park after him, of course, and Chinatown's a good example of how we are, again, a city of neighborhoods. And as you'll note from the journey, everything hinges here on the Chicago River and the Great Lakes. Our past, our present, our future, it's written here on the water. Engineering-wise, we've widened the river, we've straightened it, and we've dredged it out and reversed it. The flow of the main branch of the Chicago River, right, used to go right into Lake Michigan. That makes sense. Well, as the toxins, pollutants, and waste material were dumped into the river throughout the industrial period in the 1800s, folks, this is not hyperbole, but literally for decades, hundreds of people died every year in Chicago from waterborne illnesses. All the bad stuff that got in the river, yeah, ended up in our fresh drinking supply, beautiful Lake Michigan. The city of Chicago had a severe sanitation issue on its hands. To solve this, in the year 1892, the Army Corps of Engineers came to Chicago to begin what became an 8-year-long process to reverse the flow of the main branch. They dredged out the main and south branches. They dug these waterways 15 to 20 feet deeper than they actually were. Then they built what's now called the 28-mile Sanitary and Ship Canal. That canal runs along today what is the Stevenson Expressway, 55. If you follow 55 for 28 miles outside Chicago, you're past LaGrange, you're past Lamont, you end up in a small town where I have family today called Lockport, Illinois. Think about how Lockport got its name. So the dredging process, the canal, used gravity to pull the water off the lake. It would flush the city clean of all that bad stuff, right? Ship it south, out of the city, into the canal, gone forever, somebody else's problem. In 1903, St. Louis sued Chicago. And they lost that lawsuit because it was a lawsuit, not a World Series. That is a backhanded compliment to the STL. Whatever. Yeah, that was for you, sir. Sorry for stepping on your toe earlier. I knew I'd make it up to you eventually. So yes, indeed, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, they sued, right? You're taking more water than you should. You're going to drain Lake Michigan dry, all this stuff. In 1938, the Army Corps of Engineers came back and built the lock. You saw the lock in its process. It acts as a valve, shutting off the constant flow of lake water to the Chicago River. It was an engineering marvel of its time. Folks, they moved more earth to reverse the flow of the main branch of the Chicago River than they would later move when they built the Panama Canal. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. It's true. This kid's like really into it. Utter genius. Thank you, buddy. So I want you to feel comfortable, confident going into Chicago's neighborhoods. Enjoy the lakefront, enjoy the river, check out the bridge houses, right? Hopefully this stuff all speaks to you, makes living or visiting here that much more enriching. And you gotta remember, Chicago is the way it is today thanks to a sad, tragic, frightening, and deadly event that allowed us to learn the lesson the hard way, to rebuild, to come back bolder, stronger, wiser. Of course, I'm talking about the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Folks, for the early decades of Chicago's existence, there were no zoning laws, there was no fireproofing. Everyone built predominantly out of wood, readily available and very inexpensive. People who lived here in Chicago nicknamed this town the Tinderbox. The Tinderbox, like they all knew, not a matter of if, but when. That night, October 8th, 1871, about 9 p.m., sparks fly, and a barn is ignited out in the Western Division on Republican Street. The Western Division was any land west of the south and north branches. It was all farmland, shanty towns, a lot of immigrant groups, frankly, making their way here in the New World from an agricultural perspective. The city of Chicago gets word of the fire about 9:15. They can look out from the city across the river into the country. They can see the fire. They direct the fire department out to go fight the fire, but they end up getting lost out there in the country trying to locate this barn fire. By the time they get there, they are too late. Several buildings are on fire, and they realize they cannot get to all of them. Simultaneously, 25-mile-an-hour winds are swirling and pushing through the city. Everyone knows the winds are coming from the southwest and blowing from the northeast. That put the city right in the path of the flames. 300,000 people in Chicago at that time were all evacuating the city quite haphazardly indeed in the middle of the night. The artist renditions that show people running away from the fire as it swirled through the city are kind of gut-wrenching. The photos you can check out that were taken in the aftermath of this 30-hour-long fire are quite haunting to me. After the 30-hour-long fire was over, they realized all three branches of the Chicago River caught fire. The cargo vessels, the manufacturing, open-air markets, the warehouses, all that stuff contributed to the fire getting into downtown and reaching temperatures that melted cast iron. Cast iron storefronts actually melted off the fronts of buildings. You're talking like 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit for that to happen. 17,000 buildings are wiped out. 4 square miles of land is reduced reduced to rubble, 300 people lose their lives in the fire, and 100,000 people, 1 in 3 Chicagoans, were left homeless after this 30-hour-long catastrophe.